All right. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. You are here with me, Jermaine Jackson, on the New Beginnings podcast with Jay Jackson on another episode of the Celebration of Excellence. And on today, you all, I have a special guest. This young lady, I met her during my years of work at Ventura Foods. And I wanted to bring her on the show to talk about her journey of success. And I think this is somebody that you all need to know. She's doing me a great favor in doing this interview because this is not her thing, but because it was for me. And I've watched her life since I've known her. I've watched her just go on this trail of success. And I felt that I wanted to celebrate it. And she did me a gracious favor and came on here and she's going to talk about herself based off the questions I asked her. So, as you're listening to this, you know, the New Beginnings podcast with Jay Jackson, you can go to my YouTube and watch the live video. You can also go to all of your podcast streaming platforms, Spotify, Apple, Amazon, Google, iHeartRadio. I'm on all of them. Go, like, subscribe, stream, and follow me for the New Beginnings podcast with Jay Jackson. But at this moment, I would like to present to some and introduce to others. Now, I call her at times TD, Tyler, but I want to recognize her for the other part of her name that I know she doesn't want me to say it, but I'm doing it anyway. Miss Dr. Tyler Dunn.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are right now. How are you?
I hope they're doing well. I'm doing fine. How you doing today?
I'm pretty good. It's my day off. I work Monday through Thursday, so Fridays are usually my chill days. So you caught me on a good day.
Yes, thank you for taking time out of your chilling
Yeah.
to speak with your boy. So I appreciate that. And so I'm not going to tell you all a lot about Tyler. I'm going to let Tyler talk about herself. But for those of you that are listening, you may see this broadcasting. You may be like, oh my God, that's Tyler. So please tune in, listen to our discussion. From the time I met her since we worked together in Ventura, she's just been a great friend, a wonderful person. I know my kids like her. She braided my daughter's hair a couple of times, left a great impression on my daughter Simone, who's away at college. My wife loves her very much. Think she's a wonderful person. So yeah, I want you all to meet this wonderful person that I know. So Tyler,
Yes, sir.
now you are in Houston, Texas right now, correct?
Correct.
Right. But you grew up in the south suburbs of Chicago.
I did. So
Absolutely.
I grew up in Harvey, actually, which is about, for those of you who are not aware where Harvey is, it's maybe 30 minutes south of the city of Chicago. So south suburbs. Grew up there my whole life. I had a mom, dad, sister that we all lived together in Harvey. Still have the same house. My mom's still there in Harvey after 30 plus years. So we were pretty stable there. That's where I grew up. Only place I've ever known. Went to high school at Thornwood in South Holland, and then transitioned over to undergrad in Ohio. Came back to Illinois. So I've just been moving around, for the later part of my life here.
All right. Shout out to all you Thunderbirds from Thornwood. I can't root for them because my kids go against them in track in their conference. So sorry, I can't give love to the Thunderbirds because I need my kids to beat them in sports, and my son plays against them in football. So
Mm.
unfortunately, but
But
I know a
like
lot of Thunder. I
track
know a
and
lot of
field,
Thunderbirds.
we pretty much dominate that space.
Whoa, whoa, let's
I'm
relax. Wait a
sorry. I
minute.
had to say it. I didn't run track and field. I didn't do it. I didn't do that. I was playing different sports, but I will still represent for them, you know.
Yeah, my daughter got something for him on that track. Trust and believe. She putting it on him so far this season. So she
Good.
ain't done yet. But yeah, shout out to all you Thunderbirds out there. I know a lot of wonderful people that graduated from Thornwood that are friends of mine. So great people come out of that school. So shout out to everyone there. So when you graduated from Thornwood,
Yep.
you decided to go to Wilberforce University, which is an HBCU. So my question to you is, Tyler, why did you choose an HBCU?
So I chose an HBCU because well, my heritage, obviously African American, just being a part of that really great history of what an HBCU is. A lot of these schools were founded when Black people couldn't go to the same schools as white people, and we still wanted to be educated. So I think it was really important for me to insert myself into that world, to just meet other like-minded people, and not all Black people are the same. I know, I'm just saying it for the people in the back. There are so many different personalities, lifestyles, different backgrounds that people come from. And we all share this one experience together of, learning and having fun together. So I just really wanted to be a part of that. I chose Wilberforce specifically because I went on a college tour when I was still in high school. And one of the schools we went to was Wilberforce. Another was Central State, which is across the street. They're both HBCUs. I just really fell in love with Wilberforce, the environment, the staff that came and talked to us. Everybody was so welcoming and friendly. And I found out that I could basically get a free ride. So that was a big part in me choosing that school as well. I mean, I think we ended up paying like room and board, but as far as tuition, with my grades and everything, they offered me a really great scholarship. So that's pretty much it. Yeah.
No, that's wonderful. That needs to be noted. I tried to get my daughter to go to HBCU. She said her high school was like one, so she wasn't finna do that experience twice. But she's finding out that the PWI is not the experience she was expecting. So transfer may be in her future, but we'll see. I told her, why don't you try HBCU? So we'll see. She got another year at the PWI. Then she might look for greener pastures elsewhere. But thank you for the information. I think more recognition needs to go to the HBCUs. We know that HBCUs really put on the map the last 2 years with Coach Prime at Jackson State. Just the whole ambiance of it. If anybody watches All American Homecoming, you kind of get an insight into that. But I think more, especially those African American children, need to know about the benefits of going to HBCU, not just for the heritage, the educational background, the benefits, like you just said, because of your grades and what you did at school, you pretty much got a full ride. So it's more than just the battle of the bands, the parties, the Greek life. There's so much more to it that I think it needs even more exposure, especially when I met you and knew that you went to HBCU that was up north. Outside of Howard, I didn't know of too many more. When you hear HBCU, you automatically think, oh, that's all down south. But to hear you talk about, I was like, Ohio. Now, me, when I hear about Ohio, it's Ohio State. That's all I care about. It's my favorite college football team. But I learned so much from you because I didn't know we had HBCUs up here because I didn't go to one. I went to a PWI myself. So I just didn't know. So you were educating me so much. And that's why I'm glad you've mentioned that, because I want more parents and students, as they listen to this, understand that your child doesn't have to go way down south. They can go within 6-7 hours and find that same experience.
Yeah, and that's a good thing you mentioned that too. The distance did play a part in, my choosing Wilberforce. Now, my sister, she's 3 years older than me. She also went to a HBCU, but she went to Prairie View A&M down here in Texas. So going home for holidays was a flight, costing money. And she didn't visit as often. I'm not shading my sister, love her to death. She made the right choice for her. But for me, I just wanted to be a little bit closer. So whenever I wanted to go home, if it was like a short weekend, I would just hop in the car and drive. It was like 5 hours, 5.5 if I'm doing the speed limit. But yeah, it was close. My family could come visit. And the only thing I will say I regret about choosing Ohio is the weather, because it's very similar to Chicago weather. We get all the elements, all the snow. So walking across campus with ice hitting you in the face is like not fun at all. But overall, I think it was, a good decision. So.
Gotcha. Thank you for that. And while you were there, you majored in biology.
Yes.
Want to put that out in the street. That is one of the hardest majors. I don't care what college you go to. I was also a biology major.
Yeah.
Jesus, I don't know why I did it, but if I could do it over, I wouldn't do it twice. I tell you
Man,
that much. Yeah,
it was
so that's
good. Chemistry
difficult
kicked my
major.
butt those last few years, man.
Yeah, man. All you bio majors, y'all keep pressing out there. But I want to ask you about the AKAs, Alpha Kappa Alpha. So
Yeah.
you pledged that Greek sorority while you were there. What kind of led you to pledging while you were in college?
So I was first introduced to like Greek life by my dad. He was a Kappa. He went to University of South Florida. So growing up, that was my, first introduction to what Greek life was, what sororities were, what fraternities were. And so, I always grew up seeing all of his like paraphernalia around the house and like going to back to his homecomings and seeing how much he loved his brotherhood and seeing everybody connect and have a good time. And I really didn't have any females in my family that were Greek. Like my mom is not Greek. She went to school, but she was in nursing school and she never, I guess, had the desire to do that. So it wasn't anybody on the female side that really influenced me, more so my dad. And whenever we talked about Greek life, like my dad would always tell me, I don't care what you choose, as long as, you make, research, do your own research, make the right decision. I'll help you financially with it and things like that, where that's not everybody's experience. Sometimes, you grow up in families where somebody is a certain fraternity or sorority and they pressure you and you absolutely have to be this.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not gonna talk to you. I'm not gonna whatever. So I think, that's different people have different experiences, but that was not mine. So choosing AK in school, I researched, I actually did meet some AKs through my dad. Just going back to his schools at homecomings. He worked at Thornridge High School. So there were a lot of times where he would bring me up there and there were just these gorgeous, like educated, strong women. And I would like look at their lanyard and it would say AKA. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. Okay. So, and there were a lot of them. And so just connecting with women on that front kind of helped me make my decision. So I started researching it more and just finding out that this was the first Black Greek sorority ever founded.
Mm-hmm.
Set the deal too. You want to be the first and the finest. So that helped a lot. And so I actually went over in 2010. So it's actually been 13 years. Oh my goodness. 13 years. But I say that to say if somebody's listening and they're on the fence about like Greek life and which to choose and they're not really sure, honestly, and I'm probably going to be unpopular for saying this, but just go with your heart, right? Like do your research, make sure that you're doing it for the right reasons, because at the end of the day, they're all fraternities, sororities, all have the basic like fundamental principles, right? Of scholarship, sisterhood or brotherhood, right? And then service to others.
Mm-hmm.
So as long as that's the core of your being and what you want to do with your time there in school and after, you'll be all right. Of course, everybody has friendly rivalries and things like that. Some of my best friends are from different sororities, but that's what you see on TV is the step shows, the stroll offs, the picnics, and all of that. And that is fun, and that is a part of it. But like I said, just going back to those fundamentals and just being yourself, enjoying it for the right reasons.
Wonderful. Thank you, ma'am. Shout out to all the AKAs out there. You're not going to make the sound, are you?
I will not, but I'll throw it up though.
All right. I like the AKAs. I like Deltas a little bit more.
They got now we got to end the live. It's over.
Huh?
Interview's over now.
Don't be. I love the AKA. I know a lot of AKA. I know some Deltas too now. I like the Delta. You got a little edge to them. That's why I like them. A little rough around the edges. That's all right.
Oh my
I
God.
like both. AKA y'all real sophisticated. I ain't mad at you. Do your thing. I'm down with all. But Blackburn didn't have a Greek life, so I ain't had that college experience. That's
Yeah.
all right though. Some people tried to get me to pledge after grad. I was like, nah, I'm all right. Y'all do y'all thing. So a few of my boys have pledged. I got one friend that's at Omega. Know some other guys that have pledged that they did it after college and stuff. So yeah, I'm just me by myself, so I'm cool on that. But to all that are part of it, I've seen the benefits of it, especially the community work that all the Greek fraternities and sororities do, and I think it's a great, it's beneficial. The networking, how they will help you with stuff after you get out of college, with jobs, anything else you need. So it's definitely a brotherhood and a sisterhood. Good thing to be a part of. So for those that are, if you're thinking about pledging while you're in school, if you got your kids looking into it, if you're listening, definitely look into it. So you get out of college, and I meet you. I think it was in 2012, Ventura Foods.
Yes.
Is that when you started working there? Yeah.
Yeah, I worked. Yep, 2012. I have to think back.
So when you were getting ready to get out of college, graduating your biology degree, was that your first thought? I'm finna initially, boom, go right into this workforce.
No, not at all. So, I kind of stumbled on Ventura, but we'll talk about that. But so my initial plan was to try to get into medical school. And I wanted to go to med school somewhere in Ohio. I did a couple internships, and I was really, really headed in that path. And then I get to the MCAT, which is the very, very hard test that you have to take before you get into school. So you have to take this really hard test, spend a lot of money on studying and taking the test, and they only take certain scores, most schools. And so you have to score pretty well on those tests to even get your application accepted in order to get an interview. So I ended up taking the test once, I believe, and didn't do great. I didn't even submit my application because I was like, my scores are not that well. Like, they're not going to get it. So I'm not going to waste the money to get an application in if I'm not really having the scores that they need. So after that, I took some time to study, and then I just had a change of heart. And I was like, you know what? I'm spending too much time, too much money. I can find other ways to really help people. So I ended up just putting that on the back burner. But then life gets in the way of your dreams sometimes, right? So now I'm like out of college, and I stayed in Ohio for, I want to say, a year. And I had got an apartment really close by my school, but I stayed there for a year because I wanted to figure it out. I'm like, I'm not going back home. I don't care. I'm not going back home. Like, I'm supposed to be independent. And so I'm like, but I need to pay rent, right? So I got a job at Nabisco. In Nabisco, I was I forget the actual title. Oh my goodness, it was so long ago. But I was the person who would go to each store. I had a route of stores, go to the back, take the merchandise from the back, stack the shelves, right? So, and I had a route every day that I had to do. So that was unfulfilling, the most unfulfilling job I had ever had. Shout out to the We love Oreos and Cheez-Its and all of that, but it just wasn't doing anything for me. I'm like, I didn't go to school as a biology major to, like, no shade, stack cookies. This is not my thing. I don't want to do this. And so after about a year of that, I just said, okay, I need like a full reset. I'm going to pursue something else, at least in the field of what I went to school for. And the only way that I could do that sustainably was to move back home. So I moved back home. I went back to my parents' house. They loved it, of course. They're like, yay, you're back. You can never leave. And I'm like, I'm leaving at some point. But so I went back after about a year after graduation, and a year and a half after that, I stumbled on the Ventura job. And that was just for me like searching on Indeeds and all of the, work site jobs. So I found that job and I was like, okay, it's going to be, we were lab technicians. Well, at first. So lab technicians, quality assurance. I'm like, okay, I can work in a lab. At least I'll be like doing some stuff in the lab that I actually went to school, to do. So that's how I came up on Ventura. And I was there for about 5 years until, I pursued something different. So I'll stop there if you want to ask any questions.
Right. Yeah. So there, Ventura Foods. That's why I met Tyler as a lab technician. She met one of the greatest lab technicians of all time at Ventura Foods. I'm talking about myself. If y'all haven't figured it out, I was her trainer,
You
and
mean
she
Emily?
became.
No, I'm just kidding.
Yo, that's how you gonna do me?
I'm joking.
All right. I feel that. It's all right. It's okay. She was great, but guess who trained her? I did. That's right. My respect around here. So we all met up. I worked with a great crew of young ladies in the lab until I departed in 2013. We don't have enough time to talk about the departure they gave me, just all the great things that Tyler and the rest of the young ladies that I worked with, what they did for me. I think I almost cried. I don't think I did, but almost. But I was going through some detrimental stuff in my life at that time. They was really my rock during that time. Great friends during that season. So that's why I was so happy that I met them through work at that time. So I left and ended up coming back to. I left in 2013. I came back in 2015 as a supervisor to the company. Somebody was a new plant manager, heard about my astounding work because there was I tried to move up to be a supervisor in 2013. There was a hater in the midst who was a production manager, didn't want to give me the time of day, but that person's no longer there. So this new plant manager came in and heard about me and gave me a call and offered me a position. I said, of course I'll come back, because I had moved to Texas to work for Ventura because the one in Thornton wouldn't give me no advancement. So I came back. As I was moving up, Tyler had moved up. She was out the lab and was in the front office making the big bucks. As we're talking about your journey of success, mid bucks, I would say mid bucks. And as we're talking about your journey of success, so from Thornwood to Wilberforce, living on your own, going back home to mom and dad, Ventura Foods, starting the lab. The lab was a cool job, but now you're in the front office with the air conditioning, computer on office, I wasn't lit. Now, I was a supervisor, but I was out there on the floor busting my tail with my team.
You had your office in the back too.
Man, whatever. It wasn't like you had a nice office, close your door, window, decorations. I didn't have all that in my office. How did you transition to that position within the company?
So I'm trying to think, how long was I in that front office spot? Was it, I want to say 2 years. So when I started off in the lab, and the purchasing person, or purchaser is what we call them, the buyer for the plant, ended up quitting. And the plant manager at the time, again, I'm not gonna brag, but she liked my work in the lab, thought I was pretty reliable, and she offered me the position as the purchaser or the buyer of the company. And I was like, I know nothing about this job. She's like, you can do it. Like, I don't even know what to do. They're like, we'll train you. So I literally went from a lab technician to the buyer of the plant, who was putting in like $100,000 orders for packaging and milk trucks and ingredients, all within like 2 weeks. I think I got trained for maybe 2 weeks, because that was the time frame that the person that was leaving had until his last day. And so we spent every day for those 2 weeks just going over stuff. And so, to be honest, I was really scared, because to me, that was a lot of responsibility. Like, I make a mistake one time and the line gets shut down because y'all don't have stuff that you need, or packaging or whatever, or I make a mistake here. And so, but I felt up for the challenge. I think that was, even though it wasn't my dream job, I think it taught me a lot about, like, believing in yourself, going out on a limb. leaning on other people for help. Luckily, I had a great manager, and Miss Beltrami, Kristen.
Mm-hmm.
And I would just run to her with everything like, I don't know how to do this. Can you show me? What do I do here? When new things would happen, like that I wasn't trained for, I would go to her. And so I think that taught me just to kind of roll with the punches and do your best, and everything will be okay. So, yeah, I stayed there in that role for about 2 years, and I decided to go back to school after that. So, grad school is the next chapter.
Yes, let's get into grad school. Thank you for taking us there. So I
Yeah.
hear Tyler's finna go to school. I was sad because there was few key people at that time. It was you, your other two AKA sisters that was there in the front office that found out they was all the same sorority. Her, Shauna, and Christine. All y'all would get all happy making your sounds in the office, and I wasn't part of the crew, so I had to go back to the floor and work hard. But Tyler's leaving for school, which I was happy for. Sad at the same point. So I'm like, dang, I'm gonna be the only one left. I left them. Now they were all leaving me. You, Emily, Treese, all you guys were Treese, all y'all was leaving me. I'm like, now I'm stuck in this place. But that's neither here nor there. I'm not there anymore. Shout out to everybody that was at Ventura Foods. For
Yes.
those that are still there, much love and respect. A lot of great people that I met that I still talk to now.
Yeah.
But you are making a decision now in 2017, that I'm finna go back to school and not work at all. Not part-time, not half-time, full-time. Ma'am, what led you to that decision after spending a few years out of school, good 5 years out of school, that I'm finna totally say, skip working. I need to go back to school and achieve my dream?
Yeah, so a lot of it was just deep down not me being really happy with where I was. I didn't mention that while I was working with Ventura for those last like 2-3 years, even when I was in the lab and then when I transitioned to the front office, I was doing substitute teaching at Thornridge part-time too. So when I was in the lab, sometimes I would get off because I was maybe doing a second or third shift at one point, get off in the morning, go take a shower, put my clothes on, go to the school, substitute for the whole day, and then go home and pass out. And this wasn't every day. It was just a couple times a week. But it was just a way for me to get extra money because I was like, I want to get out of my parents' house, get my own apartment.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a way to do it. So I was just, one, so exhausted all the time. I kept thinking back to, I didn't go to school for this. Like, yes, this promotion is great. And, I'm making a little bit more money. I got more responsibility, but my heart wasn't in it. I'm like, I want to help other people, like in a, I guess, more tangible way. I mean, making salad dressing is great. We're helping people eat, but that's not kind of how I wanted to do it, right? So I started researching other careers. And so I will say I had some experience with watching some physical therapists work with my mom and my grandma after they had like major joint replacement surgeries. And I was just like in awe watching them. Like, this is so cool, watching their recovery, going from like seeing them in the hospital, not being able to even stand up on the side of their bed, to now they're like going up and down the stairs and they're taking walks and I was just in awe. And so I started researching physical therapy a little bit more. And so that's what I landed on. And I did my research while I was working 2 jobs on what I needed to do to get there. Right. And so I know that I have a biology degree, but most schools need you to take extra classes. So classes that I didn't need to take to get my undergraduate degree. So I found out what those extra classes were. I enrolled and did classes online to get those credits. And then I ended up doing the GRE, which is a graduate exam that people need to take to get into graduate school. Had to study for and take the GRE and then do my application. And so I also needed to do some observation hours. A lot of times schools want to see that you are really invested and you know what you're about to get yourself into for the next 3 years. So they're like, are you sure? We need to see how much time you spent actually one-on-one observing. And so you have to find, if you're out on your own, you have no connections, you have to go and find these places that will take in a person saying, hey, I'm interested in going to grad school to be a PT. Would you let me come observe you? So I did a lot of that. I got some no's because I'm just a random person off the street. They're like, we don't know you. But a lot of times, PTs and the professionals kind of know how it goes. So they're willing to let you come observe as long as you do the background checks and all of that. So I got my hours, did all of that, applied to a couple of schools, got into Governor State University, which is in University Park, Illinois. Got into that school, and I was set to start in May of 2017. So I ended up telling Ventura earlier in that same year that I was going back to school and like this would be my last day. I think I pushed it to like the week before I got in school. I made it that my last day because I'm like, I got to get as much change as possible because like you said, it was full time. There's no part-time going to school. I had to quit everything and dedicate all of my time to school for the next 3 years. So
Wonderful. And as I said, your name is Dr. Tyler Dunn. So we know that you successfully completed your goal. But when you started school officially, you've been working for 5 years, making money, stacking money, kind of, it's easy once you start making that money. And now you got to go from not getting income. I want to, if there were challenges, just kind of getting back into the groove of going into school, because I've always heard it's harder to go back once you start. It's like it's better just to go straight through, do everything, master's, doctor, get it through. Because now when you start life, you can only imagine if you start a family. Now I got to balance school, life, job, all this. It's a lot harder. What were some of the challenges that you may have experienced just going back to school and not working anymore? If there were any for you, or were there ever times like, you know what, this was a bad decision, let me go back and get a job? What were some of the things that you faced during that time?
So yeah, no, I never thought, I'll start by saying like I never thought this was a bad idea. There were definitely challenging times and like sleepless nights, but I never regretted my decision. I thought that I made the right decision, which, helped a lot. But one thing was leaving my apartment. I did end up leaving my parents' house and getting my own apartment. During that time I was working in Ventura. But when I decided and I got into the school, I was like, there's no way I can sustain paying this rent and I have no income. So I had to bite the bullet again. That's my second time moving back to parents' house in my 20s. And I know that's the story for some people too. They go out of, go to school and then have to come back to mom and dad's house. And so I think that part kind of humbled me. That was the most that I ever felt like I don't know what I'm doing because I should be at this point in my life and I'm not. I think that was the hardest part, is like comparing yourself to other people. And so going back home was one challenge. Of course, not making any money while you're in school is another challenge. So going back to grad school, you got to take out loans unless you're rich. And I was not, or unless your parents are rich. So that, I feel like, I don't know the stats on that, but I want to say probably 90% of people that go to grad school, you're taking out some kind of loans to pay for that tuition. So taking out loans and just seeing that money accumulate semester after semester was hard to do too, because I'm like, I gotta pay this back at some point. That was another challenge. So other than that, I feel like grad school was hard, but I enjoyed it so much because I finally felt like I was doing what I was supposed to be doing. Like I was where I was supposed to be. So
Wonderful,
yeah.
beautiful. Thank you for that. And after your successful completion of grad school, you are now Dr. Tyler Dunn. And what was your first? Because you're in Houston, Texas
Yeah.
now. So you get out of school. I believe you
Mhm.
started working out here, in Illinois,
Yeah.
and I believe you were presented with a great opportunity to go to Houston, Texas, and the reason I want you to talk about that because outside of going to college, which many of us we go away to college and we come back home, we don't come back home. Houston's a big city. It's a great city. I visited there multiple times. I think it's a wonderful place. But you
Mhm.
now are going from Illinois to Ohio.
Yeah.
Weather's the same, ice, cold, wacky weather like Chicago. You
Yeah.
finna make this huge transition, and boom, I'm going down to Houston, Texas.
Yeah.
Cheaper, don't cost
Yeah.
as much as Chicago.
Yeah.
Different weather. Why go from what I'm familiar to? I reached my goal. I become a doctor. I did that. I got a nice job out here. I'm assuming you had a nice job out here. I don't want to say it was a bad job or anything, but
Mhm.
I'm finna go to Houston, go into this whole new atmosphere and do this. What just led you to just saying, yes, this is my next move in life?
Yeah. So after school, I graduated in 2020. We all remember that year. That was no fun.
Mm-hmm.
It
Not
was
at all.
it was a crazy ride because I remember being in my last clinical experience. So like during school, we have to do at least 4 or 5 clinical experience where as a PT student, you go and you work in different settings. And so that's part of your training is to work under a licensed physical therapist. I remember being at a hospital when COVID broke out, and that was my last one. And they told us March 16th, you got to go home. Like, you can't finish here. We can't have any students in the hospital. We need to have just as minimal people in contact with hospital staff, employees, stuff like
Wow.
that. So we cannot have you come back. And that was a crazy world when it happened to everybody in my cohort, just across the board. But we ended up having to finish our program online and submit like assignments and take tests and stuff to get or earn those credits we would have gotten in whatever setting we were in. So that was pretty stressful. But I ended up graduating in 2020 in May, and I ended up working for CPS, Chicago Public Schools, right after I got a
Mm-hmm.
job. As soon as I got my license, so we had to take a test after school to get our license. As soon as I got that license, they hired me because I had did a different clinical experience before with them. So I was familiar with the staff and everything. Um, so I worked for CPS, and that was very different too because that would have been August I started. Kids were still online at school for that, so it was no in-person PT. And I'm gonna tell you, it's so hard to do teletherapy or telehealth as a
Mm-hmm.
physical therapist. We are physical, we are hands-on, we need to touch bodies to move, to do things like that. And that was a really hard challenge to do that online. But thankfully, in January of 2021, they ended up opening the schools again, so we were able to go back. So that helped a lot. And then I decided in what was it, May of 2021, that I wanted to stop working for CPS and to move to Texas. And I tell you why. So my sister is here. I know that's like a crazy jump. So I have some family here. I do know people here. So that was one of the main factors in my decision, right? So my sister
Okay.
is already here in Texas. I have an aunt and uncle and a cousin that are here. My dad's brother and his family are here. And then my boyfriend is here. You're like, everybody's like, oh, you moved for love. And I'm like, yes, that was part of it. I didn't move solely for a boy, guys, but it helped that he was here too. We actually met when we were teenagers through a cousin, but so he grew up in Chicago, but he had ended up leaving and going to Houston too. So just reconnecting with him and figuring out like, oh my goodness, you live 5 minutes away from my uncle. My sister's already there. It just felt like the stars were aligning. I ended up finding a job with a pediatric outpatient facility here in Texas. And they hired me like really, really quickly. They actually wanted me to be there within, I want to say, 2 weeks of me accepting the job. And I was like, guys, I'm still in Chicago. Like, I have to move my whole life. Like, you're going to have to give me time to quit my job, to relocate. Like, so thankfully, you know, they made those provisions for me so I can move in a most less stressful, you know, situation as possible. So I've been there, I've been here ever since. So yeah, 2021 was when I came out here.
Wonderful, wonderful. Hey, Texas is a great place. Trust me, I
Yeah.
miss it. You said earlier when you got out of college that your goal was to help people, and you're a physical therapist. You work with children. Do you believe that you have fulfilled that desire thus far with this career in your life?
I do. I do. I feel like this was the best decision I've ever made as far as concerning my career. Like I said, I'm an introvert, and it's funny that people are like, "How are you an introvert and you have to talk to people all day?" And I'm like, "But it's different. I don't know how it's different, but I just feel like I'm not at the forefront, or talking to large groups of people at a time or something. It's usually just you and that patient, or you and that patient's family, and things like that. And it's the spotlight's not on me; it's on them and like what their goals are and accomplishments and things like that. So I feel like I am helping people every single day, even though days are hard. Working with kids, I work from zero, so birth to 21 years old is my oldest patient. Um, and sometimes the terrible twos get in the way, and they're like causing a ruckus, and you just feel like so depleted and things like that after a long day. But at the end of those days, you're still like, I'm making a difference. I'm helping this kid achieve their goals. I'm helping this family um, have less of like a caregiver burden. I'm helping them interact with their peers more, or do things, simple things like, oh, now they weren't crawling before, now they can crawl, or now they can walk, or we got them some equipment, they needed a wheelchair, things like that. I think when I take a step back and breathe and think about in the ways that I am helping people, I think it helps the days be a little bit easier. Yeah.
Good. Very wonderful. And I'm glad that those children have you. I just know your work ethic. So I know they got a wonderful person helping to care for them. And as we near the end of this interview, it's one thing I want to touch on. You spoke a lot about your dad. He was your motivation to pledge Greek, motivation for a lot of things. I think it's okay if I say you were daddy's girl.
Hmm. I feel like my sister has that title more than me, although we were all very close. But I think my dad and I were so similar that we butted heads a lot. So I was more of a mommy's girl, actually.
All right, I'll take that. Well, you look just like your daddy.
I know. Everybody says
So now, in the year 2016, while I was still working with you, I know that your father passed away.
that.
And for you to go to back into school, achieve your dream of being a doctor now, a lot of people, when you lose people that are significant to you. I've lost my mom, my sister to COVID in 2021. One of the hardest things for us to do is to continue to go forward in life, continue to achieve and succeed things. Because as you talk about your father, even in his interview, and I've had conversation with you about him back years we worked together, I know that he was very supportive of his children. And just as you stated, when you wanted to look into the Greek, he said, I will support you financially. I'll do all this. So your dad was there helping, taking care of his daughters. I know he was good to your mom, just in our conversation. So to lose such an integral person in your life, how are you able to just continue to move forward? Because I always tell people grief is a process. When we lose people that close to us, sometimes that hurt, that pain doesn't go away because of what they meant to us. We go through our depressive moments. We go through our moments where we cry. We have memories of them. I always try to tell people, now I ain't no counselor, no therapist or nothing, but I tell people, don't hide that. Have your moments, because that
Mhm.
person meant life. They meant that much to you. That means you loved them. They affected you. They supported you. You just can't say, well, they're gone and that's it, I'm gonna forget about it. No, it's okay. Those memories are stored up for years.
Yeah.
But how were you able to continue to succeed in life and continue to be successful when one of your biggest supporters and motivators was now gone?
Yeah. Man, that's like a loaded question. I don't, okay, well, I would say that is not an easy process at all. So in 2016, it was March. I remember, and I'll tell like a little bit of story of the day that it happened, just so people are aware. I don't think I've ever said this. I mean, I've said it to people, that I'm close to, but I'm going to share the story. And I was working in Ventura. I would go back home. I had my own apartment, but I would go back home, like just random days of the week, just to like pop in on my parents. I still had a house key. I would just go in and be like, "Hey y'all, what's for dinner?" Like, I'm taking the toilet paper. I'm doing this, and I would go and do that as a young 20-something-year-old. And so it was just a random day. I remember like I had some Girl Scout cookies that I was gonna bring them, and I remember texting my dad earlier that day, and I forget, it was some random, he said one of his staff members said hi to me or something. I was like, "Oh, tell her I said hi. Love you. Talk to you later," whatever. Normal day. So I go home and open the door, and I'm like, "Hey, my grandma's there. Nobody, he's not answering." And so I'm like, "Dad, where are you?" And I remember just waiting there, like, well, maybe he went to the store, maybe, he just is asleep or something like that. So, long story short, in that same day, I was the person who found my dad passed away in the house. And
Oh,
I don't think many people know that. So that was a really traumatic experience for me. And I don't know that I've ever like gotten over it. I don't think anybody can get over, seeing one of their parents passed away. But I think what really helped me were the people that were around me, my family, my mom, my sisters came back. Everybody that knew him and that loved him and loved us just were constantly checking up on us and around us. I could talk to them, about my feelings and things like that. And I will say, I never went to therapy after that. Probably should have. But, that's a flaw in me. I support therapy wholeheartedly. And I feel like anybody that goes through something like that, you should. Because it was really hard for the first couple of months. Like, I still had to go back to work. I mean, Ventura gave me some time off, but it was still like life doesn't end when something bad happens, and you wish that it would just like pause for a second, but you have to find
mm-hmm.
to move on, and keep going. And I think just his love for our family and like me and my sisters and my niece and stuff like that, and just knowing that he supported everything we did, I think was a big push in me going further and like taking a step to go back to school. And I'm like, I want to make my dad proud, right? Like, I want to make my parents proud. And I every time, I feel like defeated or feel in those moments where like I would miss him really much, like really badly, um just knowing that I felt like, oh, he's looking down and he's like, he's proud of me. And everybody would tell me, like, your dad would be so proud of you for doing this. And so that was a reason enough for me to not quit. That's kind of how, I don't know if that's a great answer, that I wouldn't say that I'm over it, but that's how I kept moving forward.
No, thank you. And no, that's a great answer, Tyler. I thank you for opening up and sharing that story with us about your dad. And that was the point that I wanted to get. You said you kept going to make your dad proud.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things, if I've seen a few people close to me lose some people, I said, one of the best things we can do in moving forward, yes, never forget them.
Right.
No, I would never tell you, oh, just get over it. No, because like I said, my mom's been gone this year made 11 years, and I'm not over my mom. I understand. I said, watch my mom take her last breaths when she was on hospice, like you said, and that's a different experience to find your parent gone or to watch them pass. That's something your memory never forgets. It's like it's fresh in my mind to this day. But one of the greatest ways I honor her is that I look at my life now. Like a lot of things that I'm doing in life in my personal career, the things I do in my church, the things I do as a father. My mother was telling me as a teenager, son, you're going to do this. Son, when you get out of college, you're going to be like a manager, supervisor. I'm thinking, I'm just a young college kid. I'm on all this life stuff. You're going to be a great father. And when I see myself now, as I keep moving forward in life over the last 11 years, I keep thinking mama would be so proud if she was here. And she was the lady that told me I could do everything that I'm doing now. If it wasn't for her, I don't even know. Even though she's not physically here, she still motivated me to this day. And that's anybody that's listening, I want you to know, yes, when we lose our loved ones, one of the best ways to keep moving forward does not mean dishonor them, forget about them, let them go. Hold on to it. But take that as motivation to I got to keep going. I got to keep doing it because they were here. They'll be pushing me regardless. They wouldn't let me fail. They would not. They would be assisting me some way. So that's that motivation we need to keep moving forward. They were here. They would be right in our ear. Hey, you got to do what you got to do. You got to get it together. They'll be right there. So, and I just hear those lessons from my mom just all the time. So that's why I thank you for sharing. That was so integral when you said, I couldn't quit. I had to keep going. I had to make my dad proud. And I truly believe he was here. He'd be very proud of his daughter.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Oh, you're very, very welcome. And one of the last things we're going to talk about, and if anybody has tears in their eyes, we're going to end on a happy note.
All right.
If you follow Tyler on any social media, and I know she's an introvert, and I don't know, I don't know if she expect this. If y'all, Tyler can cook. If y'all did not know, Tyler may not put her face a lot on social media, but she sure put her meals and desserts on there. And I'm a little hot about it because she way in Texas, and I know she can cook. And I'm like, man, can't get no meals over here at the Jackson household. So if y'all didn't know, Tyler can throw down in the kitchen. You know what I'm saying?
That's a hobby of mine. I don't know. I feel like it's one of those things that some people like run, or some people read books and do, whatever hobbies. I feel like cooking is my escape from the real world. So yeah, I love to do it.
Yep. So next time I'm in Houston, because what was it, about 2 summers ago, I was in Houston and I did not hit up my friend.
No,
she was not happy with me when she looked on Facebook.
I'm like, are you at the waterfall? I know you did not leave without coming to see me. I'm like, you and Brandy are gonna get it.
I'm so sorry, but I told my wife next time we are down there, we are gonna definitely hit you up. We're gonna go out, kick it, and it may be in the years to come, be down there for some other reasons. Here's some wedding bells or something, potentially.
I feel it's coming soon, so I will keep you.
Yes, because I tell you what, I don't get an invite. I'm sure have an attitude right off the bat. I better be counted in numbers. That's a reason to travel a good 19, 18 hours, or fly to be with my friends. So thank you, Dr. Dunn, for being a part of the New Beginnings podcast. Thank you for sharing your journey of success. This is somebody that I think you all need to know. I hope that you all were inspired by her story. And just her journey and what she took. She never gave up. She never quit in the midst of adversity, in the midst of challenges. Sometimes things did not go her way. As she said, going back to my parents' house, that humbled me. That's a lot of us. I never moved back with my mom. My family, whenever we went through it, we went back and lived with each other. Like my siblings, we always lived with each other. We didn't go back to mama house. When mama was in, like, nah, we ain't going back to mama house. Can't do that. But it's still humbling though, because like, man, I don't want to be here with y'all. Right. But thank you for sharing the ups and the downs. But the goal that you said, you ultimately met it. You are helping a lot of children. I'm sure they love you. I'm sure you're impacting their lives. So thank you for the work that you do. As a doctor of physical therapy, we appreciate you. And if there's anything else you would like to share with anyone that's listening, the time is now. Any words of encouragement, anything, the floor is yours, ma'am.
I just want to say thank you for having me on. I do want to tell you that you were so instrumental in all of us succeeding at Ventura. I don't think we've ever told you enough or even told you, period, that like you were a reason why I could stay in the lab and get my work done. I would always ask you questions and things like that. And you helped all the time, even with personal things. I remember, talking about family and like life and boys, and you were always just like a big brother to me. And so I just wanted to say thank you for that, and thank you for still reaching out and checking on me every now and then. But I just think what you're doing is great with this podcast. Are you still preaching, right?
Yes, yes, man. You gonna bring that up here on the podcast, which is fine.
Uh-oh,
Yes,
I can't. I'm sorry.
no, you absolutely can.
Okay.
I'm trying to spotlight you in this podcast, but yes, I am an ordained elder now at church. Yes, I'm
Okay.
still preaching, ministering, helping. Sometimes people when they tune into the podcast, you can see some of the teachers and things that I deliver. Really, my podcast is about promoting other people.
I'm
But like I
sorry.
said,
But I watch your clips of your videos and stuff online, and I just wanted to give you your props too. Like I said, I don't like being in the spotlight. That was enough spotlight for me. So I just wanted to say thank you.
oh, thank you, Tyler. I appreciate it. So yeah, I'm still doing the work of the Lord, absolutely. And thank you all. Thank you for letting people know the impact I had on your life when we worked together. And I've always been that guy. I just want to try to help other people. And as we've shared memories about our parents that have gone on, that's one of the most humbling things I learned about my mother. I knew my mother helped people, but when
Mhm.
she left here, I really found out how many
Mhm.
lives she touched, how many people she helped. And I
Mhm.
said one of the greatest things to carry on her legacy is that I got to embody that. So that's one thing that I'm passionate about. That was kind of the motivation behind this podcast. I want to uplift other people and put them on, inspire others. So that's my inspiration. Her, just everything about her is all embedded in her. So anything that I've ever impacted, helped anybody, it all came from that lady. My years for 30 years, I was blessed to have her in my life and watch her. This is who she was, and I think I'm only scratching the surface because I don't have the wealth of testimonials that she did. But I appreciate you. Thank you for giving me my flowers. I'm like you.
Yeah.
That ain't really what I want to hear. Cause but thank you for allowing me to put you in the spotlight, but you threw it right back at me. And I guess, and I'm glad I could be your big brother. Thank you. Cause Lord know I need sisters, more sisters. Cause after I lost my sister in 21 to COVID, I need more sisters. So that blesses me a lot. So thank you for that.
Yeah. And if anybody, like a young person, is like having questions about school life, Greek life, whatever it is, I will give my email, my like professional-ish email, so that people can email me if they have any questions. It's Dr. Dunn 1908 at Gmail. So DRDUNN1908 at Gmail. I love being a mentor to especially like young Black girls. That's just another one of my passions. So I'm always here to help.
Oh, appreciate that. That email is going to be down on the video, so it's going to flash across. Y'all going to see it. We're going to definitely reach out. That's another reason. That's what the New Beginnings podcast is all about. Having the people on here that can help others. We're all about encouraging, uplifting, inspiring, and we want to do what we can to help other people. So, as we bring this thing to an end, once again, thank you, Dr. Dunn. Appreciate you for being on. This is the New Beginnings podcast. Y'all know where y'all can find it. YouTube. You can find it on all your podcasting platforms. And until our next episode, thank y'all for listening. See y'all next time.